Hello guys! In 2016 I made two videos explaining the basics of using Ortho4XP. It's a great tool created by a great guy, and it offers the ability for anyone who uses X-Plane as a platform for the flight simulation to create their own custom scenery to enjoy whenever they look out of the window of their plane. A lot of people have found those videos particularly useful, and part one of those videos is nearing 15,000 views, which for me is a big deal. So I'm glad that you guys are making use of this information and it's helping you in creating your own ideal flight simulation experience. However, it's now 10 months on and I've discovered some new things that assist in the creation and accuracy of ortho scenery. Not only that, but a couple of things in Ortho4XP have changed since the last videos. So I'm creating another two-part advanced tutorial which will delve in a little bit deeper into using Ortho4XP and some of its more advanced features, which will allow you to make your scenery even better. Welcome to Ali on Games, I am Ali, and today in part 1 of this tutorial I will be talking about the slightly more advanced features that Ortho4XP has to offer. In this video we will cover the Earth tile map, the custom zoom level feature, the batch building feature, and an update that was made to how the overlay feature works as well. On top of that, I will add any additional tips that I have picked up along the way that I think you will find particularly useful in your own process. If you have never seen Ortho4XP before and do not know the basics of creating a tile for your X-Plane sim, please refer to my other tutorial which goes over those basics. It will help a great deal in putting into context what is coming up in this video. The link for the original video is in the description below. Assuming you do know the basics however, let's get stuck in. Okay, so here we are, back to good old familiar with Ortho4XP. We've been here before. If you've seen my previous tutorial videos, you'll know exactly, you'll feel right at home here. And of course, anybody who's used the program before will know that this is the main scheme for Ortho4XP. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to jump up to the Earth tile map feature, which is way up at the top here. There we go, we're just going to click on that, and it will bring up the map here. Now, at a glance, it's a map of the world, isn't it? So we navigate by right-clicking and dragging the mouse. When it comes to Mac, I'm not sure how you navigate, but I'm sure you will be able to work it out for yourselves. I'm of course using Windows, and it's the only place I've ever used Ortho. So right-click and dragging covers the entire world, and one of the great features that this actually has, one of the reasons why I like it so much, is that it stops me from making mistakes and accidentally building the wrong tile. You can basically just double click anywhere and it will select the tile for you, and the number will be populated here. So you basically double click anywhere and it will update, even some places in the world that you've never heard of before, like here. I can't even say the name of this place, but I do have the grid reference there. In somewhere there, wherever, in Saudi Arabia there. It covers the entire world with all the correct grid references, which allows you to make sure that the area that you're wanting to build is referenced properly when you come to set up the building of your tile. And once you do select the tile that you want to build, so let's say we want to build here in Denmark, we have the reference there, and we press exit, it is automatically populated at the top of the main screen at Ortho4XP. So it's automatically carried over to the tile coordinates required for setting up the configuration for building the tile itself. Fantastic feature. Something else that you can do here is you can also edit the states of your tiles. You can delete them or delete certain pieces of information regarding them if you feel the need to. So let's say for example, like I've built here in the northwest of France, I've built this tile here, but let's say I didn't like it very much. The ortho photo wasn't very good, or there was a problem with the mesh, or whatever. I have these 4 control buttons here. I can delete the tile, which essentially deletes the tile from, obviously, the tiles folder within Ortho4XP, which, if you remember, is in Ortho and into tiles, and then you just find the correct tile in here. And for this example, that would essentially be this one right here, 48 north, 005 west. I would just, if I were to press delete on that, tile, that folder would disappear. Other things that you can do is deleting the OSM data. So let's say you press step 1. So we'll close this just now. You press step 1, which of course brings up vector data and OSM information for the tile. Let's say you press that, but there was a problem. It wasn't particularly great OSM data, and you wanted to make sure that it wasn't used again and wasn't stored locally in your system, so you have a fresh template for your next fetch of the information. Perhaps it's been updated or something like that through the OSM database. You could essentially just click it here and click on OSM. And then you can do the same with your ortho photos as well. If you think that they're taking up a bit too much space, just double click the tile, delete ortho photos, and it doesn't delete them from your tile. What it does is it deletes it from the ortho photos section here, which is of course, as everybody knows, is where all of your stuff is backed up once you downloaded it from wherever your ortho photo source is, but before it's actually applied to the tile. Everything is backed up here. And of course, if you want to do all of the things I just mentioned, you can just of course press delete all, and everything to do with that tile is gone. It's almost as if you never ever created it. Now, another great feature that this Earth tile map enables is the batch building function. Now, batch building is essentially the term used for building more than one thing automatically without requiring your input after each individual tile has been built. So it's very, very similar in how you interface with the application. Obviously, when we were selecting just one tile, we would double click, wouldn't we? And that would populate this number here. To get more than one tile selected, you actually need to shift click and it turns red. And then you keep holding shift and you click. So I've highlighted 4 tiles there for the Faroe Islands. At the moment, personally, they're causing me a pain because of the fact that I can't find a good map source for them. But we're going to use them for this demonstration anyway. So we have 4 tiles set up here. So if we were to execute a batch build, it would build those 4 tiles for us. And basically what that does is executing a batch build automatically does steps 1, 2, 2.5 if you select the overlays to be built, and step 3 all at once for you. So back to this screen then, here are some of the batch options. You get a per tile config, which is something that Ortho4XP can do if you have a specific configuration written already. I'm not entirely sure how to create these config files, as I've never used the feature myself, but you do have the ability to create a per tile config so that when Ortho detects a particular tile in your batch that is being built and also has its own separate configuration, it will adhere to that configuration rather than the base configuration that you have here set on the main screen. So the batch builder will automatically take all the settings that you have in here. So obviously you would want to set these up how you would usually have them when building a tile. And then go into your batch builder, and then you would execute the batch build. You have use existing mesh. Again, something else I've never used. I prefer the mesh to be built fresh each and every single time in case there was any problems with like a height map or anything that I've had in the past. I naturally do not want that same problem to come in the second time or the third time I execute a tile to be built. Building the masks, I always check that as on because it's very important, otherwise you will not get your nice smooth transitions on your coastlines. And build overlays. That's okay if you like to build overlays through Ortho4XP. I actually do not anymore, and I will go into why very soon. But if you want to build overlays through Ortho4XP, as long as you reference in your custom overlay directory down here, where the overlay information is going to come from, then it will build your overlays for you when it's building the tile. If you don't actually know how to find the information for obviously pointing Ortho4XP to any existing overlay data that you have, my basics tutorial video covers that. Make sure to watch that, and obviously the relevant section will give you the information that you're looking for there. Again, the link for the original video is down below. And then once you've got all that stuff, I'm going to uncheck this. Once you've got all that stuff, you basically just press batch build. And what happens is you pressed it there. Nothing really happens here, which is kind of deceiving. What you need to do is press exit, and you'll find that everything is happening here. So it's already done step 1 for me, for tile 48, -005, and it's in the process of doing tile 104. Oh no, sorry, that was me earlier. So yeah, this is the OSM data for, yeah, 61008. So this is like one of the first tiles that we did for the batch build, which of course, when you close the map, you kind of lose which ones you've highlighted. But the 4 tiles that we've got there have been obviously caught by Ortho4XP. And as you can see here, I don't have an elevation data file for it. I don't have a height map for that tile, but one of the updates to Ortho4XP is that it automatically downloads stuff from Viewfinder Panorama anyway, which is exactly where I would have got it from to begin with. So if I go to X-Plane, I go to Viewfinder, where did I, there we go. Coverage map. This is obviously the map that I showed you in the original tutorial. It's still useful. If you want to download your height maps from here, go for it. Nothing's going to stop you. However, you don't need to anymore because the program already does it for you, which is fantastic. So don't worry about that step. Okay, so now we've built the first tile, we're now into tile 2. As you can see, like, I had no interference there whatsoever. It is automatically gathering the OSM data for me. It will then go into step 2 and build the mesh. Obviously, I wanted to build masks as well because I told it to in the batch rules thing. And it will automatically build my masks, just like it did for the first one. It's now trying to find the elevation data. There we go, all sorted. And yeah, you basically just leave it until it finishes. And then your tiles are made. Now, I know that these tiles are going to be rubbish because I'm using Bing at zoom level 17 on the Faroe Islands, and there is no ortho photos for that area at that zoom level. But I just thought I'd show you how this works. I'm going to stop it for now. And then what I'll do is I'll show you how the deletion, I'll give you an example of how the deletion thing works. So in that whole thing, we managed to obviously build one tile before I start the process. But I don't want that tile anymore because I know it's rubbish. I know that the ortho photos are non-existent. The mesh is fine, and I'm sure the OSM data is amazing. But I don't actually want the tile because the ortho photos are incorrect. So if I just press delete, well, first of all, I'll show you where that tile is. So, X-Plane Ortho4XP tiles, 61008. There it is there. So yeah, we just built that one, and we, oopsie, and we also started building 007, so 62 north, 7 west. I'm going to obviously let you see this. I'm going to maybe, there we go, sweet. Where am I? Brilliant. So we're going to delete this tile, and you'll see that folder disappear. Delete all. I don't want the ortho. I don't want the OSM. I don't want the tile. Goodbye. And the folder is gone. And we also tried to build 62007, which is this one here. Obviously, I think we only got OSM data for that one. But what we're going to do is we're going to delete the folder anyway. So I'm going to delete everything. All gone. Nice and convenient. And the fact that you have a graphical representation for all this so that you can make sure that you're not deleting the wrong folder and the wrong information, or you're not building the wrong tile, is just very, very, very convenient. So yeah, that's the batch building feature. So the next feature I think we're going to go on to is the one for custom zoom levels. Now this feature was in Ortho4XP when I originally did my basics tutorial. However, it was, for me, rather inconsistent, and so I didn't want to show it off until it was a little bit more consistent. I have used it a number of times now. There is a couple of little quirks that it has that I will explain to you, but for the most part it works splendidly well. Now, the reason why you would use, I'm just going to find a tile that I want to use here. So, let's go for, we'll go to the Faroe Islands again. Let's just go there. Sod it. So, I'm going to get the, okay, Bing, there we go. We're going to get the custom zoom level up. I'm going to use Bing as my map source, and we'll go zoom level 13 for the preview. Here we go. Now while this is loading, I'll explain to you why you would use this feature. Custom zoom levels are great for people who don't really care about the zoom level or the detail for areas in between airports. Like, you know, like big areas of farmland or hills or anything like that. If you don't really care, if you think that you're going to be flying jets all the time, you're going to be flying at a really high altitude, say above sort of like, say, 10,000 feet or something, and you don't want it to be zoom level 19 everywhere because that would take up a lot of hard drive space, and we're not all blessed to have the money to be able to invest in a huge rack of hard drives for our ortho scenery, maybe you want to find a compromise. Maybe you'd like to go zoom level 16, or in my case, 17 everywhere, except from perhaps areas like around a city or surrounding the airport. Areas where you know that you're going to be low enough to be able to appreciate the detail without wasting hard drive space when you're flying at altitudes in between airports where you're not going to be able to appreciate the detail because you're too high. So I'm going to show you exactly how this works. It is super easy, really is super easy, and honestly, it will really give you a better appreciation for being able to, for actually wanting to look outside the window on your approaches. If you're at, say, 5,000 or 6,000 feet and you have a slightly higher zoom level at that area leading up to the airport, and maybe even like a even more higher detail zoom level for the actual aerodrome itself, it's going to look splendid. So I'm going to find the landmass here. If I remember, it's in the bottom left for this tile. Yeah, here we go. So Faroe Islands, are there any airports here? Okay, so here we are. I decided to choose a different tile from the one I was going to do in the Faroe Islands because there was no airports on the tile in the Faroe Islands. And also, there wasn't a lot of landmass to kind of prove my point. There's a bit of a weird ortho photo changing colour here. Oh man, that's very saturated compared to the rest of it there. But this is Denmark, Copenhagen. I think, and my geography is not very good, but I think this is Copenhagen Airport. But all we really need for this example is an airport. That's all we need, okay? So let's say, for example, you're building your tiles like I am, and your base level, which is of course on the main screen here, is Bing ZL17. So I use Bing for almost all my maps, and I use ZL17 for everywhere. It averages out at about 10 gig per tile, assuming the tile is complete landmass and not like this one, which is a lot of water as well as landmass. So that's what I get. I use ZL17, but of course, if you were to come down for an approach or take off from any of these runways, you'd look at the ground and you go, that's a little bit blurry. You know, I wish it was a little bit sharper. It'd be looking a little bit nicer perhaps over these houses and stuff here. I'd love to see the, you know, like just where the houses are supposed to be and maybe a little bit more detail along the forests and stuff like that. I just like it to be a bit sharper for areas that I can actually see at that altitude. Well, you can do that. It's certainly possible. What I like to do is I like to set up a ZL18 route area within about 5 miles ish, maybe a little bit more depending on the airport and how long the approach is. But I tend to do about 5 miles of a higher resolution, and then I tend to do the aerodrome itself in a higher resolution still, so that it's super crisp when you're on the ground, and it just looks amazing. So what we're going to do here is, because our base config on this screen here is already set to ZL17, we already know that everything here is going to be ZL17. So when we're at altitude, it's going to look feckin' good. It's going to look really good. But obviously when we get a little bit lower, or we're taking off from here and maybe flying over here, I mean, look at that. That looks really nice, especially with the pieces of like snow. I think it's snow. That is a landmass, right? It's not. Yeah, that's a landmass. It looks like a bit of snow there on the tips of the hills and whatever. It'd be so nice to be able to kind of get all those little details, wouldn't it? So what I would do here is I would set a zoom level for that area. And what I would do is I kind of go by eye. I look for details where I go, okay, I could take this chunk of landmass here, and we can go down the river and create a border for ZL18. So what we would do is we would select the zoom level that we would like to make in the zone, and we want to obviously create a border around the landmass that we want to make super crystal clear. So we selected ZL18 and we're going to draw a shape. And we do that by holding down Shift and clicking. And then click again, still holding down Shift. You want to do this for all of the area. For all of the border that is creating the shape to surround the landmass that you would like to be a sharper image. Now you can do this, you don't have to have water or coastlines to draw around. You can do this, I mean I could do this in the middle of England if I wanted to. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. It's, but I when it comes to doing it on big areas of land, I like to use motorways or maybe bridges or something as my borders, so that I have a shape to go around that doesn't look particularly intrusive if the detail were to just suddenly change, because there is a decent change between ZL17 and ZL18. So there we go. Basically everything in this shape here, so that's this landmass here, and this area here, is going to be zoom level 18. So there's going to be more detail than the base, which is obviously over here, ZL17. So what do we do now? We save that. We save the zone. You must save the zone. If you immediately, or hit save and exit, one of those two things. If you start clicking elsewhere with your shift, you will actually just be adding points to the existing zone. So once you've drawn your shape, hit save zone, it will give you an estimate as to how much additional size there will be to your tile. So in this case, we are adding almost 1 gigabyte. So let's say, for example, this tile were to be, I'm going to assume about 8 gig. We just added 0.9, so it's going to be about 8.9 gig estimated when this tile is fully built. And that's it. You've just created yourself a custom zoom level. And so everything in this area will be a little bit sharper than over here. And of course, coming to, and of course leaving from airports, this area here will be nice and crisp until you get to, I don't know, well, you'll be about, what, 500 feet by the time you get to about here? Sure, this landmass isn't huge, but it's still going to make a huge difference. But you can go one step further. You could, if you wanted to, have made this this entire area ZL19 if you wanted it super sharp, or if you're like me and you don't want to waste too much hard drive space, you can take the aerodrome and draw around that within an existing zone at a higher zoom level. And this is what I do to my tiles, so that when I do touch the ground, it looks good. You know, it looks really good. And I only ever do this when I'm doing my final prints of tiles. So it's after I've built my tile and I know that all the ortho photos are working properly. I just realised I've gone outside the aerodrome, but it doesn't matter. We'll just put in, I think all of that is still part of the aerodrome. I'm not sure. But yeah, once I've already done my test tile to make sure that Bing does indeed have photos for the area that I'm wanting to build, and I've done my patch files and they're all working properly and my runways are looking the way I want them to, then I do my master print of a tile, which is essentially doing exactly the same as the tile build before, except I add in all my little custom details for this. For making sure that I have my aerodromes and all my detailing areas the way I want it to be. So now basically what we've done is we've got normal ZL17 here, ZL18 here, ZL19 at the aerodrome. Save that. We've added about 1.1 gig into the total tile size once this is all built. Now the only reason you would ever have a problem with doing this is if you do not hit save zone after you've made your shape that you want to make, or if you hit abandon without saving, because otherwise the zones will not carry over to the configuration on your main tile building screen. That's the only problem you'll ever have, except perhaps if you're using a map provider that doesn't actually have ZL19 for this area of the world. Then of course you just get white textures. Now I will give you a word of warning. I have found that with custom zoom level, if it's the first time that I'm building a tile and I don't have any pre-existing ortho photos, I sometimes get texture errors when I load X-Plane if it's a tile that I have used custom zoom levels on. And the reason that is because when it's creating these zoom levels, it's obviously using ZL17 wherever ZL17 is, and it's using ZL18 wherever 18 is, and 19 wherever 19 is. But the way that the files are actually downloaded in your ortho photos, they're done in squares, so sometimes it has to kind of blend the two of them together, which is kind of how it works, and it works very, very well. The only problem is, I'll just give you an example. See, it's all downloaded in squares. See that? Well, I say squares. They're kind of like, 3x4, like rectangles. So if you imagine this, for example, let's say somebody here wanted to do a picture, and this was ZL17, and they wanted to get fantastic detail on the beach. So they decided to do ZL19 around here. The problem I have run into is, unless I've already got the ortho photos on my PC for ZL17 in this area, and I just go straight into my first build with the custom zoom levels, sometimes it does not put the ZL17 in the tile. It will just put the ZL19, and so textures will be missing when X-Plane comes to actually load up the tile, and it will give you an error when you start up your sim. To avoid this is why I always do a test tile burn. So if it's ever a tile that I've never built before, so I'll show you. If I were to do like this same tile, right? If I were to do this same tile, oh, actually not, because obviously the custom zoom levels are there. But if I were to do, say, this tile here, I've never done it before, ever, as you can see. There's nothing there right now. I don't have any information. Press exit, do all my OSM and build the mesh, blah, 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 blah. I would never, ever use custom zoom levels on my first burn, because I want to make sure that I have all the ortho photos required for the base, so that the custom zoom level ortho photos that will get downloaded on my second time round, assuming that I am going to use custom zoom levels in the second build of a tile, all that will happen is they're layered on on top, I guess, when they're all being blended together. Rather than ortho sometimes making a mistake and forgetting to put one of the zoom levels in. I know it's a very long explanation. I've been trying to think of a really short way to explain that, but it's really not easy to explain. It's just, whenever you come to do a new tile, always make sure that your base configuration, which is this screen here, is working. Make sure that that your provider that you're using for the maps, whether it be Bing or Google or here or anyone like that, make sure that they have the photos for that area, and make sure that they're complete. Then delete the tile from your Earth map screen, which is, of course, as you know, this one here, but only delete the tile, keep the ortho, so just click the top one there, and then do your customs, so then that they're layered properly when they come to get converted and put onto the the whatever file it is that X-Plane reads for textures on top of mesh. I've forgotten what they're called. DDS, I think. It's just a nice way to squeeze out a little bit more detail in the areas that are really important without really destroying your hard drive capacity, because I originally started doing my project at ZL18 everywhere. I was getting about 40 to 50 gig per tile, which was fine. The only problem was I was running out of hard drive space fast. I got a 6 terabyte Western Digital Black. Running out of hard drive space reasonably fast for just doing the UK. I was hitting the 2.5 terabyte mark, and I hadn't finished the actual country yet. And on top of that, like 40 to 50 gig in a tile, that's a lot of data to to read off of a hard drive when your sim's loading up. And so sometimes for the first 10 minutes, I'd be sitting there with a really crap frame rate because my hard drive just going all the time. My PC just, my hard drive screaming at me. Absolutely screaming at me. So the best thing to do is to get the detail where you really want it, and get the detail where it's acceptable and it looks nice at the altitudes that you're going to be flying at everywhere else. Okay? Pro tip. Okay, so my next tip with you guys is a small one, but it is an important one, as a lot of people still have a lot of questions about overlays. I did go over this in my basics tutorial, so I will not be going over it in any great detail. The only reason I'm bringing it up in this advanced tutorial video is it's more of an update. It's something that's changed for Ortho4XP since I did my last videos. The way it used to be before was overlays used to be like above build tile. So you build your, oh wait, let me get this right now. Yeah, I think it was above build tile. So you did step 1, you did step 2, you built your overlays if you wanted to, then you did 2.5 if you wanted to build masks, and then 3. It used to be up here somewhere because it was part of the main chain. It was part of the workflow. However, now building overlays is completely separate. A lot of people have asked me in my previous videos, and they've also asked on the Ortho4XP forum, hey, why is overlays at the bottom now? And the reason it is because it's now its own separate thing. You no longer have to build a complete tile over again just to add an overlay. Or if you get your overlay wrong, because the way you used to do it is if you built a tile and you forgot to, or maybe you didn't add your overlay properly, your directory for your overlay properly, you had to rebuild the entire tile. So you had to wait however long it took to build the tile before you could see if your overlay worked. Whereas now, it takes seconds. And it works in exactly the same way as it used to. So you hit custom overlay directory. For the purposes of this demonstration, I will be pointing towards the HDV3 mesh. I just realized that for this part of the world, I do not have the HDV3 mesh. So what I'm going to do is just go for there. Sweet. Somewhere in Scotland. Yeah, so custom directory. We find wherever I put HDV3, which is, I think, in explains custom scenery folder. Is it here? Yeah, there it is. HD Global Scenery 3. Click. And that's it. That's as far as you go. I cannot point that out any more obviously than I did in my last video. And as I've said to many other people, you go no further. This is the root folder for your V3 Global Scenery. And of course, if you're not using your V3 Global Scenery, you'll be using some other overlay stuff. But that's as far as you go. Custom Scenery, that's the folder. You hit select folder, that's it. That's your root for your overlay. You don't go any further into that file structure. You press build overlay and this. Oh. Shit, do I not have an overlay for this area? It would appear that I do not have an overlay for this area. Let me see. Okay, so it looks like for that particular tile, I don't actually have any data for overlays. So I'll just choose this one because I'm pretty sure I have some for this one. Build overlay. There we go. Sweet. It helps to choose a tile that you actually have information for. But as you can see, it's exactly the same place. All it needs is the root folder for where the overlays are set. You don't go any further than that. If you were to do this, if you were to go, so as you can see that built 11 seconds. There's little to no OSM data in that tile. Great. Probably not the best example, but as you can see, it did go through the entire thing. It took 11 seconds. If it only takes like 2 seconds, you've done it wrong. Because it's not reading the corrected data. But yeah, if you were to go, so custom scenery, HDV3. I did already point this out in the basics video. But if you go further than that, if I were to go here, nothing. It has to be the root folder. Done. So that's how overlays work. They're a completely separate process from the way they used to be. As I said before, you usually had to rebuild an entire tile to build an overlay or to add an overlay to a tile that you had. It used to be quite a time-consuming process. Now it is a process by itself. So if you wanted to, you could build an entire country, right? And go, great! All my ortho photo looks fantastic, and my runways look great, and I've got all of my custom zoom levels in there. Now I want houses, now I want trees, now I want road networks. I'm going to get my overlays in there. You no longer have to rebuild every tile. All you need to do is choose obviously the correct tile from your tile map, there, and obviously point to the root folder. Whoopsie, wrong button. Point to the root folder in your custom scenery folder for where your thingy is going to be. Hit build overlay, and assuming that you do have the right file in that folder, it will build it for you. I hope that helps, because I know overlays for some people is like the biggest mystery ever. Okay, so the last tip I'm going to tell you is nothing really to do with Ortho4XP, but it will help you a ton when it comes to efficiently arranging your folders and, in turn, your workflow when dealing with Ortho4XP scenery creation. But first of all, let's look at that amazing KLM 777. Isn't that good? Okay, anyway. Custom scenery folders. I want to show you something, because everybody, I don't know why, I really don't know why, but whenever anybody asks the question in an X-Plane forum, oh man, do I have to copy and paste and cut and paste all of my stuff from my tile folder into my X-Plane custom scenery folder? Do I have to do that? It takes so long, they're such big files, and it's true, you know, they're huge, they take some time. And it's an annoyance for a lot of people. But no, you don't have to do that. And I don't understand why people are telling, because the solution for a lot of people is, what's it called? A symbiotic link, or whatever it's called. That thing that basically tells Windows that 2 hard drives are 1 hard drive. Or something. I can't remember exactly how it works. But it's something like that. And essentially it fools X-Plane into thinking that the tiles that are actually located on 1 hard drive are actually located in the custom scenery folder. And I thought to myself, as soon as somebody told me this, I thought to myself, wait a minute, there's another way you can do this. And that's like this. Shortcuts. Every single folder, oh, okay, there's a few missing actually because I built some tiles recently. But every single, one of these is a shortcut of every single thing that's in here. So this is my custom scenery folder, and this is my Ortho4XP tiles folder. Now I'm going to tell you why this is better when it comes to a long-term data management perspective. Let's imagine you have none of my shortcuts here. You don't have any of these, and you're building your first or second or third or fourth tile. So you've built maybe a set of 4 tiles, and you go, right, okay, copy paste. Well, that wastes time, and on top of that, it uses up twice as much hard drive space when it only needs to use up. Like the files only need to take up one part of your hard drive. They don't need to take up 2. It's just a waste of space. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of space. If you do the shortcuts though, obviously, so let's say like the shortcut for this one. Did I do this one? 4800. Yeah. So shortcut for this one. That has all the information because it points straight to the Ortho4XP tiles folder. Okay. So basically, what happens? I'm going to tell you how this works first of all. This here is a link to this here, which is the Ortho4XP tiles folder. The reason I keep my tiles here is because it's a 6 terabyte hard drive, and I want to keep them all together. Whereas the hard drive that X-Plane is on is an SSD. It's only 1 terabyte, so I would run out of space when it comes to trying to shove all of my scenery there. So there's that. But another great thing is I only ever need to make these once. Because if you create a tile on Ortho4XP and you decide, oh man, it's broken or something, you would then have to delete. So you would create the tile, you copy and paste it over, so you're taking twice as much, or maybe you cut and paste, but it's just still time consuming. So let's say you cut and paste. You're basically moving the file from one place to another. You run the sim, you find that there's a problem, you have to delete it from here and rebuild it, right? It's just a lot of unnecessary moving around. There's a lot of area for things to go wrong there. You might accidentally cut and paste rather than copy and paste if you were intending to copy and paste. You might have clicked and dragged it to a wrong folder by accident. You might have misclicked somewhere, it might have gone somewhere else completely different and it doesn't actually appear here. Whereas if you make shortcuts, and let's say that this file here, 48 north, 0 east or west, whatever. Let's say that this tile was broken. All I would need to do is hit delete. Right? Rebuild the tile, and it would appear. Right, hold on a sec. I need to restore that. Give me a sec. Restore. So I've rebuilt the tile. This folder is still pointing to the same file name, because remember, these file names when you build tiles, they never change. Their numbers are identifiers, but the format never changes. So if I created that this as my first tile and I made a shortcut, Xplane will read this by looking into it and obviously being linked to the other hard drive. It will run the tile in the sim. But I could build this tile 10 times over. This folder doesn't care. It's just looking for the folder of the appropriate name, which is this one here. So if you have a shortcut for every single tile that you build, you can rebuild any tile at any time, and you don't have to worry about, oh wait, is my tile in the right place? Is it in my custom scenery folder? Yes, because you already made the shortcut. Is Xplane looking for it? Yes, because it's looking through the shortcut to where the tile is actually located. Do I need to delete or change anything in my custom scenery folder because I re-rendered the tile? No, you don't. The only thing you need to do is whenever you build new tiles, create new shortcuts for them. So whenever you build a tile that you've never built before, let's say for example, I were to build this one here in Germany, 500010. If I were to build that tile, it would appear, give me a sec, it would appear in here. So let's say like it was there already. All I would do is right click it, create shortcut, and that would appear somewhere. Where's my shortcut? Here it is. And then I would go to custom scenery, copy it over, and it's immediately sorted. As long as obviously it's in the correct place in your scenery INI file, obviously being run in the right place, you know, in the load order, you will see your ortho scenery. Now, the reason why I'm going on about this is because it's such an easy solution to such a time-consuming and, in some cases, storage-consuming problem. A lot of people are copying and pasting. They spend all their time moving around data just to test something. Whereas if you just take a file, create a shortcut folder, which is 2 kilobytes in capacity, they take no time to transfer over, and then they're there permanently. The only time where you will ever have a shortcut folder in here and a problem with loading it in the sim is if there's a problem here. Like for example, the folder that this shortcut is pointing to, obviously this one's pointing to 49+001. Let's say that folder didn't exist. Then Xplane would say, couldn't find textures for tile such and such. And then I would need to go, well, the shortcut's there. Oh, but the folder here is, I better build the tile. Silly me, I deleted a tile that wasn't working for me, and I forgot to rebuild it. Silly me, my bad. It's just, it's such a very simple solution. So please use shortcuts. You will save yourself a world of time. You will just be able to build your tile. As soon as it's finished, you'll be able to launch your sim after rebuilding a tile, and it will just work. Instead of you copying and pasting and cutting and moving and like wasting so much time where you could be in your sim enjoying your scenery. So that's probably the last tip that I'm gonna have for this part 1 of the tutorial. I hope that the updates and a little bit of extra insight into some of the features that Ortho4XP now has to offer help a little bit in the creation and of course the unique creation of the scenery that you want to see. Some people want it to be super simple. They just want some kind of photo reference for their landscapes and stuff like that. That's perfectly fine. If you're like me, you kind of want to go in between. I don't want detail where I don't need it. However, I do fly VFR, so I don't want it to look like crap down there. So I want it to be super sharp when I'm on the ground as best I can. But I don't need it to be super sharp everywhere because that's just wasting hard drive space. So I like to use the custom zoom levels. Anyway, I think that's everything I have to say for this tutorial. I hope that you've found it of some use and it added to the arsenal of information that you already had in your Ortho4XP scenery creation journey. Thank you very much for watching. I just want to give a shout out to the GameWith subscribers that are supporting me in creating my content. It means a great deal. If you do like my content and you consider going a little bit extra and subscribing through GameWisp, there's a link down below the stream that you can click on and I'll give you a bit of information. I hope you have a great day. Part 2 to this tutorial will be coming out very soon, and it will be going over the slightly more intricate details over patch creation on Ortho4XP tiles. I did already do a basics to patch creation last year, but this one will be going over the use of way profiles to get the super sexy curves in your runway. So if you are at all interested in that, be sure to be paying attention to the YouTube channel over the next couple of days. But overall, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like, perhaps share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe if you are new to keep an eye on what content I have done in the past, and of course, what's going to be coming up in the future. Until I see you again, goodbye.